Happy Sunday. I am headed to town today for my pottery class, and I thought I'd use this time, like I did last week, to film a video. The days are getting away from me so quickly right now, and I know a lot of my friends and clients are experiencing the same thing. Time has sped up, it seems exponentially. I wanted to talk today about how I learned to journey. We moved to Eugene, Oregon in 2019, right at the end of 2019, just before the plague. And it was December 27th, a couple days after Christmas, and I got a Meetup notification in my email. And I had signed up for Meetup when I was in California and had never gone to a Meetup, had never really done anything with it. I had signed up there with the intention of meeting folks that were awakening like I was, because I didn't have a lot of people around me that were on the spiritual path that I found myself embarking upon. But somehow Spirit got me this invitation. It came to my email and it said Journey Circle / Drum Circle, and it said that it was held in a sacred cedar yurt on Floral Hill in Hendricks Park. And when I read that, I love Hendricks Park. It's one of the first places I saw. I mean, man, more than my daughter's about to be 36, and she was maybe 2 the first time I went to that park. And so I just knew that I was supposed to go, and it said all you needed to bring was an eye cover. And when I saw that, I knew I was supposed to go. I had been looking for stocking stuffers for my kids, and my older son at the time was wanting to do more meditation and to learn astral projection, which, by the way, I do not recommend astral projection. So I just want to throw that in there before anybody gets in the comments at me. But we didn't know what we didn't know at that time. So all I needed was an eye cover. And what's funny is I had ordered my son an eye cover just to throw in his stocking, not realizing it came in a pack of 2. And so I had my eye cover. So that night came. It was January 2nd of 2020. And it was a cold night, but just kind of light mist. And I got to the place that I was supposed to go, and there were just these beautiful little twinkling lights leading up a path next to this pond. And I get to the yurt, and there are so many people in there, and I didn't know how everybody was going to fit in there. We were supposed to all sit around the edge of the room, and the woman leading the circle that night, it's as though she was sensing my thoughts, because she looked at me and she said, somehow the yurt always stretches to accommodate us all. And within a few minutes, everybody was sitting around the outside of, lining the wall, really, the circular space. And we all fit. And my son and my now husband were sitting right next to the gal who was facilitating the drum circle that night. And if you've heard me talk about my magical shamanic friend who passed away in 2022, it was her. It was Karen Joe. And so she was the one that was facilitating the drum circle, and I skipped a little bit. We had to show up a few minutes early so that the woman who owned the home that and the land that the yurt sat on could teach us how to give us to coach us in how to journey. None of us knew how to journey, and this was a drumming circle and a journey circle. And so her instruction to me was in the beginning, you are imagining the journey, and at some point it shifts and the journey is imagining you. That was our instruction, right? And so we got into the group, and the first thing we did was just sat and drummed ourselves there. That's what we were told. And they'd had some extra drums and rattles, so everybody had either a drum or a rattle, and we all just moved in unison, drummed in unison, right? And that night was so special, and I knew that it was something that I was meant to know how to do, not just to show up one time and go practice it. I knew it was something powerful because I didn't remember how to do it at the time, and somehow I had all of these amazing intuitive hits come through. And it was cool because, we were all journeying to a particular place, and it really was affirming to me because so many of the other people, there were men and women there. It was a really nice mixed group, all ages too. And so many of them experienced or saw similar things to what I witnessed. And so that night, as the circle ended, I stayed back and I asked the woman if she would train me. And she kind of had just this knowing smile on her face and told me to reach out to her in a few days, so I did. And in that time, she journeyed to ask if I was someone she was to train, and she got a yes. And so her name is Karuna, and she was 80 at the time that she began training me. And from that first class, that first time with her, this wasn't something that she did. You couldn't go to her website and find her courses or anything like that. This was somebody I approached and said, will you teach me? And she agreed. And so she began by teaching me these journeys and healing ceremonies. And in these journeys and healing ceremonies, my intuitive side, my ability to receive messages, and in a lot of different ways. I mean, I was receiving them visually in the journeys, but the visual imagery that I would get would then be accompanied by this download, this knowing of what it meant. And I was good enough at it to where she then invited me to participate in like a little secret journey circle with a handful of women, maybe about 10 women. And I think I was the youngest one. You know, I was in my early 50s then, and I think I was the youngest one, or maybe there was someone right about my age or just under it. And then all of these amazing, beautiful, wise women in their 70s and 80s. And being with these women, I know, was a massive gift for me, because I learned so many things, and it's where I met my precious friend Karen. And because I knew how to journey that way, it enhanced every other modality that I learned, because my psychic side, or my spiritual side, my intuition, my ability to gather and interpret information just soared because I was doing that regularly. And in this time, so this is January of 2020, and everybody knows what happened after that. The journey circles and everything got shut down. People tried to do it on Zoom, but for me anyway, there was a lot lost, at the time. It was interesting because I don't even think Zoom was capable of transmitting the drumming sound to where it sounded like drumming and not just discordant noise. And so I stopped doing the journey circles, but I didn't quit journeying. And anytime I found myself in a place or a state where I didn't know what the next step was to take, or where I knew I had something in my field and needed to ascertain what it was, I would go back to journeying. And I've talked in a couple of different podcasts, some about what happened in December of 2021. It was December 21st of 2021. And by the way, throughout this time, I had my sister, who had passed away in 2018, was still with me and hadn't crossed. And I also had my youngest son's dad, who had passed away in 2012 and hadn't crossed. And the home that we were living in, which I know we were meant to come to this home and be on this land. It's land that we had been on before in another time. And I knew we were supposed to heal this land beneath the house. And so I was exploring all kinds of different modalities, and I would ask my shamanic teacher, the original one that owned the yurt, I would ask her for help with stuff, and she would just be like, oh, just build a light grid, it's not that hard. And I didn't know anything about anything with that kind of stuff. But anyway, all of this was going on, so it's like I was going through initiation after initiation after initiation. I went to this training with another shamanic teacher, and in that training I learned how important it is to hold space properly, because the folks that were running that class, it was a 3-day class, and they were teaching us how to do shamanic extractions, right? And I listened to the instructions very carefully, because I was raised knowing about the principalities of darkness, and you know, I was raised in church, but I was raised in church, you know, by an evangelist and a gospel singer, and you know, we moved churches a lot, because as soon as somebody rubbed my mother the wrong way, she was off to seek her next group. And so I had been to every kind of church, from really you know, buttoned up Baptists, like, you know, hell or what are they, brimfire, and I don't even know I can't think of the thing. I want to say brimstone and hellfire, but I don't remember the saying. But anyway, from that to Pentecostal churches where people are speaking in tongues and falling out and whatever. So I had a vast array of experience with that, and I knew about spirits, and I could sense spirits, I could sense people's intentions, and I could see energy around people. Even when I was younger, I could see somebody's anger before it was ever directed at me, and which came in handy, at least to know, because we were raised in a fairly violent household. But I digress, sorry. So learning how to journey, and what happened in 2021. So 2021 is when I was asking Spirit to show me who I was, to show me what I was, because I'd had all these different readers, psychics, folks that used SRT, which is a modality I'm trained in, just different folks. And people would say things to me, they would tell me about these like really great things they saw in my future and in my past and whatever, and telling me that I had this big purpose that I was here to fulfill. And rather than getting me excited and all up in my ego, I mean, it got me in my ego, but not the right way. It took me into fear and overwhelm, because I felt, like I've said before, I felt like a hot mess. I had my sister in my field, I had my son's dad in my field, and then everything attached to them. And you know, if you haven't seen my interviews before, what happens is when somebody passes, when they die, and they still have programs like addictions, alcoholism, sexual abuse, this kind of stuff in their field, they don't cross. And not only do they not cross, but they begin to attract beings with the same kind of energies. So everywhere I was going, it's like I was picking up more and more beings, because I had my sister with suicide in her field, because she had attempted suicide when she was 15. I had her illness in my field. She died of acute myeloid leukemia in 2018 on May 1st. And so I had, her illness. I had her despair. I had my son's dad's addiction and his alcoholism and his illness. And so my physical health was just deteriorating. I could hardly eat anything without having a reaction. I was diagnosed with all kinds of different autoimmune diseases, and so I had them attracting all of this stuff, and I felt so heavy. I couldn't imagine how someone like me could be good in the world, and that makes me want to cry. But I couldn't imagine it from where I was. I couldn't imagine someone like me being helpful to someone like me, to someone that was in fear and had all these heavy energies around them. And so anyway, I was at this shamanic training. They were teaching extractions, and folks were not following what the teacher said to do. We were supposed to remove what we saw, and we were supposed to throw it to the nearest body of water, watch it hit the water, and then make this hand motion, right? And I looked around the room, and people were just flinging energies everywhere, right? And so me sitting there with my hoard, I probably had a catcher's mitt. It was like having a big catcher's mitt. And I went home that night, and it was the last night. When I left the house, another gal who probably had a catcher's mitt too, she was in the fetal position on a massage table. I mean, that's how poorly space was held for this. And so I went home that night, and I had a demon on me. And I didn't know prior to this how powerful demonic energies could be. Meaning, I had this, I went into the bathroom, and, I felt all this energy, like, I felt like I wanted to crawl out of my skin. And it woke me up, and I got up and I went to the bathroom. And as soon as I was in the bathroom, I felt something. It felt like energy crawling from the base of my spine over the back of my head. And I was nauseous and felt like I was going to faint immediately. And it ended up being this whole thing because it was during the plague, and I didn't want to go to the hospital. I saw how hard they were marketing that disease, and they said, if you went into the hospital, you were going to die alone and on a ventilator. So I was not going to go. I heard very clearly. I heard very clearly that if I were to go to the hospital, that I wasn't going to come home. So that was off the table. And so I called my husband. He came and got me off the floor, and he just held me and prayed for me. I don't even know for how long. And the next morning, as soon as I could, I called my teacher, and she found what was on me, and she removed it. It was a demon. And I know that there was something that I required from that experience. I needed to know what it was like to have something like that on me. And it felt like I was having a heart attack. I thought I was having a brain aneurysm. I didn't even know what was happening because my body felt so terrible. And as soon as I would try, I was on my hands and knees in the bathroom before I called my husband. And as soon as I would try to come up at all, even to get to the toilet to throw up, which I never did, but even to get there, every time I would pop my head up, I would get shoved right back down. It was really intense. And so I knew then what it was like to have a demon on me. And so flash forward, 12/21 is the day that I asked Spirit to show me what I was and who I was. And if you watch my interview with Todd Medina from Soulogy, and it might even be in the very first interview I did. There's a playlist on my YouTube that is just podcasts, but I talk about what happened that day when I asked to see. I was shown myself in several different forms, and I was shown myself as a warrior, as a spiritual warrior. And so that was in December of 21, and December of 21, February of 22, I got this really strong message, and I can't remember if it came in a dream or if it just came to me intuitively. But I got this message that I was to journey every day of February of 22. And I thought, journey how? And I just got the message that I would know, I would be told where to go, how to, where to journey, as it unfolded. And that's what happened. I got my marching orders every day, and I would journey. And at this time, I didn't know anything about child trafficking. I didn't know how dark the government was. I didn't know so many things. And what happened over the course of journeying this entire month, every day this entire month, over the course of it, I was shown these things. I was shown kids being trafficked by the government. I was shown kids in cages beneath the Pentagon, right along with with animals next to them. I was shown a lot of things. And this is how I came upon the knowledge that I have about the darkness. I didn't come upon the knowledge I have about demons by reading about demons. I didn't come upon the knowledge I have about child trafficking, about spiritual warfare, about most everything that I know and teach. I am definitely a reader. I love to read the books that aren't for sale. I like to thrift old metaphysical books, and I love to read. But when I am reading, most of the stuff that I read is confirmation of what I've already experienced through journeys. And so this has been a skill over and above like any modality that I have learned. And I've been trained in quantum healing, hypnosis, regular hypnosis, Reiki to teacher, spiritual response techniques, spiritual restructuring. I've learned all of these different modalities. I've learned and been certified in them. And of everything that I have done, nothing has developed my ability to see and know and receive information the way that journeying has. And one of the most powerful journeys that I did was a journey that I did for my youngest son. And I died when I was giving birth to him. And I don't mean that as a euphemism for something. I mean, it's in my medical records. They over medicated me so much, and weren't writing down the different things they were putting into me. And so the anesthesiologist and the doctor, the last thing I remember before giving birth to my son was the two of them arguing over me. And the anesthesiologist was mad because the doctor had given me a drug. He had given me terbutaline in order to stop my contractions. And it's an asthma medication. And so I was shaking from this terbutaline in my system. And the anesthesiologist checked the chart. It wasn't there. So he gave me Demerol. And he had already given me, I mean, the way folks give birth in the West is another thing I've learned about, but I didn't know. I didn't know what I didn't know at the time. But I had so many drugs in me, and the last thing I remember, they had my arms, they had to take me in for an emergency C-section. I'd had my first two kids natural, but they had inserted the catheter wrong, and so it was swelling my cervix and my son's head. I couldn't have him naturally, so I had to have this emergency C-section. And so they had my arms strapped down, speaking of barbaric, and an oxygen mask over my face. And as they were arguing over me, I realized I couldn't breathe, that I was suffocating, and the oxygen mask was just shooting the oxygen out either side of my mask. And so I just started praying for my kids. I started praying for my two older kids and this baby that I wasn't going to get to know. And because I knew I was dying. And the last thing I saw was the anesthesiologist hollering, "She's gone stiff on me," and jumping on top of me with an intubation tube. And I didn't wake up for 3 hours after that. And so flash forward to 2021. No, 2022. And it was my son's birthday, and he was really having a hard time with this birthday. And his dad died when he was so young. His dad died, I said, in 2012. It wasn't. It was 2015. My son was 12. And so it was a tough birthday, and I decided to go and journey for him, just to go journey and see, like, is there something in his field I can clear for him? And when I journeyed, I don't remember where I intended to go, but where Spirit took me was back to the delivery room. And I was in the delivery room, and I was witnessing the dead body on the gurney. And I saw that my son was still attached to the dead body. So he was still attached to the mother that died giving birth to him. And so from my current form, I went to I went to the mother and I went to this baby, and I took the cord that was attached to the mother and I attached it to myself in this journey. And I wasn't taught to do that. I intuitively knew that this was something I could do to shift this. And it shifted things in a way that I can't even quantify. For my son, for my relationship with him. And, for him, he had been carrying this energy of death in his field, the energy of violence in his field, because that's how this baby received. The reason they over medicated me is because when they put me on the table, I mean, I told you about them not disclosing in the records, not writing down what they had done. But the other part of it is when the doctor began cutting, I could feel it. And I asked him to stop, and he thought I was just anticipating the cut, and so he just started again. And I hollered. I mean, it hurt. And so that's when they gave me the general anesthesia, and that's when the anesthesiologist figured out something was wrong, because even with this general anesthesia, my heart was going all over the place, and he couldn't monitor it because of that terbutaline. But so my son had this violence, he had death, he had all of these things in his field. And so it was made really clear to me in that moment that this child who had he had had some issues in school, but like a lot of risk-taking stuff, showing off for his friends. So I was in the emergency room, with him getting staples in his head, with a broken nose, with so many different things. And it had a lot to do with this chaotic energy in his field. And so that shifted for him, and our relationship shifted so much. And yeah, and so this is just one of the ways, some of the ways that journeying has improved all of my, really awakened, helped me remember my super senses. And I wanted to share that with you guys. I am less than a week away now, or we are less than a week away now from the Journey Through Your Heart webinar. And in this webinar, I'm going to teach you how to safely open and set and hold your space to be able to journey, and then teach you the route and what to do once you're in there. And it's 2 hours. My husband will start us with a little biofield tuning, and I'm looking forward to see who comes. I've had a lot of other teachers and healers that have been coming to our webinars, which is such a huge compliment to me, and I'm very appreciative that other people that do this work are desiring to learn from me, and I hope you will too. I trust that the folks that are supposed to show up will. And I'm at my pottery studio now, so I'm gonna skedaddle. I hope this makes sense. I just talked the whole way here, and so hopefully it makes sense. Hopefully it resonates with you. or gives you an idea about what this skill, what relearning, remembering this skill can bring. And I'm sending you guys a bunch of love. I'm starting a 3-day water fast tomorrow, and my intention is to bring, I have a really good visualization where I am going to show you how to find which of your bodies are holding discordant energies, and teach you how to shift that energy. You have a lot more bodies than you know. I mean, we know we have the mental body, physical body, emotional body. You have a lot of spiritual bodies too. So looking forward to that, and wishing you guys a beautiful, magical week. Reminding you to stay with your shadow. You know, if traumas are popping up, stay with them. Stay with them and really work through that energy. And how you work through that energy is by acknowledging what's there. I recognize I still have fear around this thing that happened when I was in the 6th grade, if that's popping into your head. And Spirit, I release this fear to your care now. That's how easy it is. It's just naming it and turning it over, naming it and turning it over. And I encourage you to do this work no matter what's happening in the outer world, because this is how we shift. This is how we shift the world, by working on our stuff, by clearing our inner world, by clearing our trauma. We facilitate the awakening and the shift in consciousness that a lot of folks seem to just be waiting on. It's not going to happen without everybody doing the work. So I'll see you soon.